Listen closely, for this is a story our grandmothers whispered when the moon hid its face. In the mountain village of Istra, deep in the highlands where mist clings to ancient rocks, people believed your shadow was proof of your soul. Without it, you were nothing but emptiness walking. On the night of a rare eclipse, when darkness swallowed the sun completely, a woman named Leora cried out in labor. The village elders gathered around the fire, waiting. When the baby finally came, they lifted him toward the flames to see if he was whole. That is when they saw it. Or rather, they saw nothing at all. The child cast no shadow. The fire danced. The other shadows flickered and swayed. But beneath the newborn boy, there was only bare ground. Empty. Silent. As if the earth itself refused to acknowledge him. The high priest stepped forward, his face twisted with fear and disgust. He raised one trembling finger and spoke the words that would curse the child forever. No child without a shadow may walk in the light. The villagers gasped. Leora pulled her baby close, tears streaming down her face. She did not know yet what she had done to save them all. Years passed like slow rain. The boy was named Aaron, and he grew up in a village that pretended he did not exist. Istra was beautiful, carved from golden stone and surrounded by thick forest. Every evening, when the sun dipped low, the villagers would gather and watch their shadows stretch long and proud across the red earth. But Aaron had no shadow to watch. He walked through the marketplace, and people moved away as if he carried sickness. Children whispered behind their hands and ran when he came near. Even the dogs would not come close to him. They barked and backed away, ears flat against their heads. Only his mother, Leora, still looked at him with love. She would hold his face in her rough hands and whisper the same words every night. Even the sun began in darkness, my son. Do not forget that. Aaron wanted to believe her. But every day, the weight of their hatred pressed harder on his chest. He saw the way people spat on the ground after he passed. He heard the mothers pull their children inside when he walked by. He was 12 years old, and already he understood what it meant to be unwanted. The whispers followed Aaron everywhere like invisible chains. He would sit alone by the river, listening to the water, trying to find peace. But even there, he could hear them. The voices carried on the wind. That shadowless boy brings bad luck. Ever since he was born, the rains have been weak. His mother must have angered the spirits. One day, a terrible storm came. It tore through the village with violent winds and lightning that split the sky. Trees fell. Roofs collapsed. The chief's granary was destroyed, and half the harvest was ruined. By morning, the people gathered in the square, angry and afraid. They needed someone to blame. And they all turned their eyes toward Aaron. The high priest stood on the temple steps and pointed at him. This is his doing. The cursed one has brought darkness upon us. Aaron stood frozen, his mother's hand gripping his shoulder. He wanted to scream that it was not his fault. That he was just a boy. That he had done nothing wrong. But his voice was lost in the crowd's anger. And deep inside, a small part of him wondered if they were right. Aaron could not stand being hated anymore. He decided to prove he was good. He would show them he was not cursed. One night, he crept through the village to the home of old man Kossi, whose roof had been torn apart by the storm. Aaron walked quietly under the moonlight, lifting wooden beams and tying them with rope. His hands bled, but he did not stop. Just before dawn, old man Kossi woke and came outside. When he saw Aaron hammering the last nail, he did not thank him. Instead, his eyes went wide with terror. Get away from me, the old man screamed. You touched my roof. Now my shadow feels cold. You have stolen its warmth. Aaron stumbled backward, confused and hurt. I only wanted to help. Help. Old man Kossi's voice cracked. You are a curse. Everything you touch turns dark. By sunrise, the whole village knew. They said Aaron's hands drained the life from shadows. They said he fed on light like a demon. The story grew wilder with every retelling. Aaron ran into the forest and hid behind the great stones near the temple. He pressed his face into his knees and cried until his throat was raw. The Festival of Light was the most important day in Istra. Once a year, when the full moon rose over the sacred lake, every villager would gather to offer their shadow's reflection to the sun spirit. It was a prayer for protection, for health, for another year of life. Aaron begged his mother to let him go. Please, Mama. If I offer my reflection like everyone else, maybe they will see I am not cursed. Leora's face was filled with worry, but she could not deny him. She nodded slowly. That evening, the lake glowed with 1,000 lanterns. Families stood at the water's edge, singing ancient songs. One by one, they stepped forward, and their shadows danced across the silver surface. Then it was Aaron's turn. The crowd fell silent. Every eye watched him. He walked to the water, his heart pounding so hard he thought it would break. He looked down. The water turned black. Not dark. Black. As if something beneath had swallowed all the light. The lanterns around the lake began to flicker and die. Smoke rose. Voices screamed. The high priest's voice boomed across the chaos. He is the Hollow One. He devours light itself. Leora threw herself in front of her son, arms spread wide. Her voice shook, but it did not break. He is innocent. He has done nothing wrong. The high priest's eyes were cold as stone. Then explain the blackened water. Explain the dying flames. Your son is not of this world, woman. You have brought a demon into our village. He is my child. Leora's voice cracked with desperation. He is flesh and blood, just like any of you. The priest stepped closer, his shadow long and sharp in the firelight. Then tell us the truth, Leora. What did you do the night he was born? What bargain did you make? Leora's face went pale. Her lips trembled, but no words came. The priest smiled, cruel and triumphant. You see? She cannot deny it. She has brought this curse upon us all. He raised his hand, and the temple guards moved forward. They grabbed Leora by the arms and dragged her toward the stone cells beneath the temple. Aaron screamed and tried to run to her, but strong hands held him back. His mother looked at him one last time, tears streaming down her face. Run, Aaron. Run and do not look back. Then she was gone, swallowed by the shadows of the temple. The guards tied Aaron's hands and forced him to walk. They took him to the edge of the village, where the forest began. This was no ordinary forest. This was the Shadowlands, a place where light never reached. A place where the cursed and the forgotten were sent to die. The head guard shoved Aaron forward. Walk into the darkness, Hollow One. And may the spirits have mercy on your twisted soul. Aaron stumbled and fell to his knees. When he looked up, the guards were already walking away, their torches growing smaller and smaller until they disappeared completely. He was alone. The forest before him was dense and black. The trees twisted together like the bones of ancient giants. Strange sounds echoed from deep within, whispers and cries that did not sound human. Aaron's whole body shook with fear. But he thought of his mother, locked away because of him. He thought of her last words. Run. So he stood. And he walked into the dark. The branches clawed at his arms. The ground seemed to pull at his feet. But somewhere deep inside him, a small voice whispered. You are stronger than they know. The deeper Aaron walked, the stranger the forest became. The trees were covered in symbols he did not recognize, carved into the bark like old wounds. The air was thick and cold, and every breath felt heavy. Then he heard them. Voices. Not the voices of living people, but echoes. Whispers that seemed to come from the trees themselves. Lost. Forgotten. Abandoned. Aaron's heart raced. He spun around, trying to find where the voices were coming from, but there was nothing. Only shadows. Shadows that moved even though there was no light to cast them. He kept walking until he reached a clearing. In the center stood a stone altar, ancient and covered in moss. Carved into its surface was the symbol of the moon, cracked and fading. Aaron stepped closer. His hand reached out to touch it. Do not be afraid. Aaron gasped and jumped back. A figure stepped out from behind the altar. It was a man, but not like any man Aaron had ever seen. His body shimmered like mist at dusk, neither solid nor transparent. He had no shadow, but he also had no form. He simply was. The man smiled gently. I have been waiting for you, Aaron. Aaron's voice was small and shaking. Who are you? The man tilted his head, and his form flickered like candlelight. I am called the Seer of Dusk. I walk between light and shadow, belonging to neither. Aaron swallowed hard. Why were you waiting for me? The seer's eyes, though faint, were filled with sadness. Because you are not cursed, boy. You are chosen. Aaron shook his head, anger rising in his chest. Chosen. Chosen for what? To be hated. To be thrown away like garbage. The seer stepped closer, and though he had no weight, the air around him felt heavy with truth. You were chosen to carry a burden that saved an entire village. Before you were born, your mother made a deal with the moon spirit. Aaron froze. What deal? The seer gestured to the altar. Sit. And I will show you what was hidden from you all these years. Aaron did not want to know. He was afraid of the truth. But he sat anyway, because the not knowing was worse. The seer placed a hand over the altar, and the stone began to glow faintly. Images appeared in the mist like ghosts. And Aaron finally understood. The vision pulled Aaron into the past. He saw his mother, younger and desperate, kneeling by this very altar. The village around her was dying. The land was cracked and dry. Children cried from hunger. Elders lay weak in their homes. Leora's voice trembled as she prayed. Please, moon spirit. If you can hear me, I beg you. Save my people. I will give anything. The moon above pulsed with light, and a voice like wine through hollow trees answered. Anything. Leora nodded, tears streaming down her face. Yes. Anything. The voice was soft but final. Then give me the shadow of the child you carry. One life's echo for 1,000 lives' light. Leora gasped, her hand moving to her belly. My child will have no shadow. Yes. And he will be marked forever. Hated. Cast out. But the rains will come. Your people will live. Leora closed her eyes. Her whole body shook. Then she whispered the word that sealed her son's fate. Yes. The sky cracked open. Rain poured down in rivers. The land drank deeply. Life returned. But inside Leora's womb, her unborn child's shadow dissolved into nothing, pulled into the moon's keeping. The vision faded. Aaron sat trembling, tears streaming down his face. His mother had traded his shadow to save the village. And that same village had cursed him, hated him, and cast him out. The seer's voice was gentle. She loved you more than life itself. Every day she carried the weight of what she had done. But she never regretted saving her people. Aaron's voice broke. They hate me because of her sacrifice. They live because of what she gave. And they threw me away. The seer nodded slowly. Such is the cruelty of those who do not understand what they have been given. Aaron clenched his fists, anger and grief twisting together inside him. What do I do now? I have no home. No shadow. No future. The seer knelt before him, his form flickering but steady. You have a choice. You can remain here, hidden and forgotten. Or you can return to the village and reclaim what was taken from you. Aaron looked up sharply. My shadow. Yes. It was not destroyed. It was imprisoned. Buried beneath the sacred lake, feeding the village's light. Aaron's breath caught. It's alive. The seer's eyes darkened. Yes. And it is very, very angry. Aaron did not sleep that night. He sat by the altar, staring at the carved moon symbol, his mind racing. His shadow was alive. trapped, suffering. And he had been walking the world alone while it screamed in the dark. By morning, his decision was made. I will go back. I will find my shadow. The seer nodded, though his expression was grim. Then you must be prepared. The moment you step foot in that village, the balance will begin to break. Light and dark will no longer hold. Strange things will happen. Aaron stood. I don't care. They took my mother. They took my life. I will take back what is mine. The seer handed him a small stone carved with the moon symbol. When the time comes, hold this. It will guide you to where your shadow waits. Aaron took the stone and tucked it into his shirt. He looked back one last time at the Shadowlands, the place that had shown him more truth than his own home ever did. Then he began the journey back. Dark clouds gathered above him as he walked. The wind whispered warnings. And far below, in the sacred lake of Istra, something stirred in the blackness. Back in Istra, fear had taken root like poison. Strange things were happening. At night, people's shadows would move on their own, sliding across walls without their owners. Some shadows refused to follow at all, standing still while their people walked away. Children woke screaming, saying their shadows were whispering to them. The high priest stood in the temple square, his voice booming over the terrified crowd. This is the work of the cursed one. Even in exile, his darkness spreads. An old woman cried out. What do we do? How do we stop it? The priest raised his arms. We must strengthen the seal on the sacred lake. The Hollow One's spirit is trying to return. We must bind it forever. The villagers nodded, desperate for any solution. They did not know that the very thing they feared was already walking through the mountain pass, getting closer with every step. And in the temple cells below, Leora sat in the dark, her hands folded in prayer. She whispered her son's name over and over, hoping somehow he could hear her. Hoping he was still alive. On the edge of the village, near the old wells where few people went, Aaron met someone unexpected. A girl, around his age, with bright eyes and a kind face. She was drawing water when she saw him. Most people would have screamed. But she only stared, curious. You're the boy without a shadow. Aaron froze, ready to run. But her voice was not cruel. It was soft. Wondering. Yes. She tilted her head. I've heard the stories. They say you're dangerous. And what do you think? The girl smiled a little. I think people are afraid of what they don't understand. She set down her bucket and walked closer. Aaron noticed something strange. Her shadow, cast by the moonlight, glowed faintly. Not bright, but shimmering, like fireflies trapped beneath her feet. My name is Mira, she said. And I'm not afraid of you. Aaron felt something crack open inside his chest. It had been so long since anyone looked at him without hatred. When Mira reached out and touched his hand, her shadow paused brighter for just a moment. Warmth spread up Aaron's arm, and for the first time in his life, he did not feel cold. Mira led Aaron through the back parts of the village, where the houses were old and the streets empty. She moved quickly, her eyes always watching. If they see you, they'll kill you, she whispered. The priest has everyone convinced you're a demon. Aaron's jaw tightened. I came back for my mother. Is she still alive? Mira nodded. She's in the temple cells. They haven't harmed her yet, but the priest is waiting for the right moment. He wants to make an example of her. Rage burned in Aaron's chest. I won't let him. Mira stopped and turned to face him. Aaron, listen to me. You can't just walk in there. The priest has guards everywhere. And the people, they are terrified. They'll turn on you the second they see you. Aaron looked at her, his eyes hard. Then I won't let them see me. Mira studied him for a long moment. Then she sighed. There's a hidden entrance to the temple. An old tunnel beneath the sanctuary. I can show you. Aaron's voice softened. Why are you helping me? Mira looked away, her glowing shadow flickering. Because I know what it's like to be different. She didn't explain further. But Aaron understood. The tunnel was dark and narrow, the walls slick with moisture. Mira led the way with a small lantern, and Aaron followed close behind. The air smelled of earth and old stone. They emerged inside the temple's lower sanctuary, a vast chamber lit by hundreds of candles. At the center was the sacred lake, its surface perfectly still and black as night. Aaron's breath caught. This was where it happened. Where his shadow was sealed. Stone statues of the sun and moon loomed on either side of the lake, their faces worn smooth by time. And kneeling before the water was the high priest, his hands raised in prayer. Great spirits, the priest chanted, keep the hollow ones darkness bound. Let no curse rise from these waters. Aaron clenched his fist. He wanted to rush forward, to scream at the priest for everything he had done. But Mira grabbed his arm and pulled him back into the shadows. Wait, she whispered urgently. If he sees you now, you'll never reach your mother. Aaron forced himself to breathe. She was right. But as he watched the priest pray over the lake, something moved beneath the surface. A ripple. Then another. And Aaron felt it. His shadow was waking. The priest finished his prayer and stood. As he turned to leave, the candles around the lake began to flicker. He paused, frowning. Then the water began to move. Not in waves, but in slow, deliberate ripples. Something was rising from the depths. The priest stumbled backward, his eyes wide with fear. The surface broke. A shape emerged, dark and dripping, made entirely of shadow. It had Aaron's form, his height, his build. But its eyes burned with silver fire, and its face was twisted with rage and pain. The shadow's voice was like grinding stone. You kept me in the dark. The priest fell to his knees, trembling. Impossible. The seal. Your seal is breaking, the shadow hissed. And I will have my vengeance. It surged forward, and the priest scrambled away, shouting for the guards. But the shadow was faster. It wrapped around him like smoke, choking the air from his lungs. Aaron watched, frozen. This was his shadow. Part of him. But it was filled with so much hatred, so much suffering. Mira whispered urgently. Aaron, you have to stop it. If it kills him, it will spread through the entire village. It will destroy everything. Aaron's hands shook. How? How do I stop it? Mira looked at him with desperate eyes. You're the only one who can reach it. Aaron stepped into the light. His voice rang out across the chamber. Stop. The shadow froze. It turned slowly, its silver eyes locking onto Aaron. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then the shadow spoke, and its voice was broken. You? Aaron took a step forward. Yes. It's me. The shadow released the priest, letting him collapse to the ground, gasping. It moved toward Aaron like smoke in the wind, stopping just inches away. You walked in the sun, it whispered, and the pain in its voice was unbearable. You felt warmth. You laughed. You lived. And I was buried in darkness. Alone. Forgotten. Aaron's throat tightened. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know you were suffering. The shadow's form flickered with rage. You should have known. You should have felt me screaming. I did. Aaron's voice cracked. Every day I felt like something was missing. Every night I dreamed of falling into darkness. I was never whole without you. The shadow hesitated. Then why did you not come sooner? Aaron's voice dropped to a whisper. Because I didn't know where you were. But I'm here now. And I'm not leaving you behind again. The shadow's silver eyes dimmed slightly. It is too late. I am only rage now. Only pain. The high priest, still gasping on the ground, reached for the ceremonial dagger at his belt. His eyes were wild with fear and fury. This is your doing, boy. You and your cursed mother brought this upon us. He lunged toward Aaron, the blade raised high. But before he could reach him, something strange happened. His own shadow, the one stretched long across the temple floor, began to move. It twisted and writhed, no longer obeying the light. It grew larger, darker, taking the shape of a serpent with gleaming eyes. The priest froze in horror as his shadow rose up behind him. No, no, this cannot be. The shadow serpent struck. It wrapped around the priest's body, pulling him down. He screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the darkness. In seconds, he was gone, consumed by his own greed and hatred made manifest. The chamber fell silent. Aaron stared at the empty space where the priest had been. Mira covered her mouth, trembling. The shadow spoke quietly. He fed us all to the darkness while claiming to serve the light. His own soul devoured him. Aaron turned back to his shadow. Please. Don't let hatred consume you too. Aaron ran through the temple corridors, his shadow following like smoke. Mira showed him the way to the cells. When they reached the iron door, Aaron tore it open. Inside, his mother sat against the cold stone wall, her face pale and thin. When she saw him, her eyes filled with tears. Aaron. He fell to his knees beside her, taking her hands. Mama, I'm here. I'm going to get you out. But Leora shook her head weakly. She looked so tired, as if life itself was slipping away from her. No, my son. It is too late for me. Don't say that. Listen. Her voice was firm despite its weakness. I need you to know the truth. Everything I did to save our people. Even knowing what it would cost you, I would make the same choice again. Tears streamed down Aaron's face. I know, Mama. I know about the bargain. I know about the shadow. Leora's eyes widened. Then you understand. You were never cursed, my child. You were chosen. You carried the weight of all their lives. She reached up and touched his face. I am so proud of you. Her hand fell. Her breath stopped. And Leora's shadow lifted from her body like a gentle mist, drifting toward Aaron and wrapping around him like an embrace. Then it faded into nothing. Aaron knelt beside his mother's body, grief crushing his chest like a stone. He had come too late. She had died alone in this dark cell, punished for saving everyone. Behind him, his shadow spoke softly. She loved you. Aaron nodded, unable to speak. And she never stopped fighting for you. Aaron stood slowly, his eyes red but clear. He turned to face his shadow, and he saw it for what it truly was. Not a monster. Not a curse. Just a lost part of himself, broken and afraid. I'm sorry, Aaron whispered. I'm sorry you suffered alone. I'm sorry you carried all that pain. The shadow's form softened. I wanted to hurt them. All of them. I know. I wanted to make them feel what I felt. I know. Aaron took a step forward, his arms open. But that's not who we are. We are not darkness. We are not revenge. We are just a boy who wanted to belong. The shadow trembled. I'm so tired. Then come home, Aaron whispered. Come home, and we rest together. The shadow hesitated. Then, slowly, it moved forward and wrapped around Aaron like water returning to the river. Light and dark merged. Whole at last. The moment they became one, the temple shook. The sacred lake erupted with light, silver and gold mixing together like dawn breaking. The water, once black and still, now shimmered with twilight. Outside, the villagers gasped as the sky split open. Half night, half day. Shadows that had been dancing wild returned to their owners, settling peacefully. The fear that had gripped Istra began to lift. Mira watched from the temple entrance as Aaron stood at the center of the lake, his body glowing with soft light. He finally had a shadow. But it was not like other shadows. It moved with him, part of him, shimmering with both darkness and light. The villagers came running, drawn by the strange sky. When they saw Aaron, they fell to their knees. An old woman began to weep. Forgive us. We did not know, Others joined her, their voices breaking. We were wrong. We were so wrong. Aaron looked at them all, these people who had hated him, cast him out, killed his mother. He wanted to be angry. He wanted to hate them back. But he was too tired for hate. The light forgives, he said softly. Even when you could not see it. As the villagers wept and prayed, Aaron felt something strange. His body was becoming lighter, less solid. He looked down and saw his hands beginning to fade, turning translucent like mist. Mira saw it too. She ran toward him, her eyes wide with panic. Aaron. What's happening? He smiled, though sadness filled his eyes. The balance is restored. The shadow has returned to the light. But I was born between both. I don't belong to either world anymore. No. Mira grabbed his arm, but her hands passed through him like he was made of air. You can't leave. Not now. Not after everything. Aaron's voice was gentle. I'm not leaving. I'm just becoming something else. He was fading faster now, his form dissolving into the twilight. Tell them, he whispered, his voice growing distant. Tell them that even those born without shadows can teach the world where true light begins. Aaron, please. But he was already gone, scattered into the silver light like dust in the wind. Mira stood alone at the edge of the lake, her hands still reaching for nothing. Tears streamed down her face. The village was saved. The balance was restored. But the boy who made it possible was no more. The next morning, the people of Istra woke to a sky unlike any they had ever seen. Soft pink and purple light stretched across the horizon, neither fully dawn nor night, but something in between. They gathered at the sacred lake, which now shimmered with gentle colors instead of blackness. And there, cast upon the water's surface, was a single shadow. A boy's shadow. It stood facing the rising sun, one hand raised as if waving hello. Mira knelt by the water, fresh tears falling. She whispered his name. Aaron. An elder woman came and placed a hand on her shoulder. He is not truly gone, child. Look. Mira looked where the woman pointed. Every shadow in the village now had a faint glow to it, the same glow that had once belonged to Mira alone. Aaron's light had spread to everyone. He became part of all of us, the elder said softly. Light and shadow, together at last. The high priest was gone. Leora was laid to rest with honor. And the village learned to see shadows differently. Not as proof of what, but as companions in the light. The story spread beyond Istra, carried by travelers and traders. And every village that heard it remembered one truth. Years passed like gentle rain. The village of Istra became known for its twilight skies and glowing shadows. People came from distant lands to see the sacred lake where a boy without a shadow taught them all to see. Old Mira, now a grandmother herself, would sit with children by the water and tell them the story. She would speak of Aaron, the boy who was born cursed but died a hero. The boy who proved that light and darkness were not enemies, but two halves of the same whole. At sunrise, she would say, if you stand by the lake and watch carefully, you will see him. A boy's shadow smiling in the first light. And if you are very still, you might hear him whisper. The children would lean close, their eyes wide. What does he whisper, grandmother? Mira would smile, her own shadow glowing softly beside her. He says, even the sun began in darkness. Do not be afraid of who you are. And so the story lived on, passed from elder to child, firelight to firelight, reminding everyone who heard it that sometimes the greatest light comes from those we cast aside. For in Istra, they learned what the rest of the world had forgotten. That shadows are not proof of worth. They are proof that light was there all along.